We have all these incredible scientific advances for your health and for the way you look. And I think if you use them in the right way, it's a beautiful thing.
You won't believe the secrets hidden behind the laughter on Everybody Loves Raymond. For 9 hilarious seasons, viewers watched Ray, Deborah, Robert, Frank, and Marie tackle every comedic twist imaginable. Yet the real drama often unfolded when the cameras stopped rolling. From hush-hush pregnancies to salary disputes that almost derailed production, the off-screen stories are just as fascinating and sometimes more shocking than anything seen on television. Get ready to uncover every hidden detail that proves the sitcom was far from just another family comedy. Once you learn the truth, you'll never view the Barone family in quite the same way again. Let's start with something that's always been quite striking about this sitcom. The title itself, Everybody Loves Raymond, is undeniably catchy. But did you know Ray Romano, the star of the show, originally disliked it? The name actually comes from a remark made by his real-life brother, Richard. Picture it. Ray Romano is on the rise as a comedian, having just snagged a Cable Ace Award. His brother, who worked as a police officer, sarcastically blurts out something along the lines of, "I go to work and deal with dangerous criminals all day." Meanwhile, Ray goes to his job, tells jokes, and everybody loves him. This offhand comment caught the attention of network executives who thought it was hilarious and decided it would make a catchy placeholder title for the new sitcom. But Ray was hesitant. It felt boastful, or at least a bit cheeky, and he worried people would push back. He feared viewers might think, who does this guy think he is, that everybody loves him? Yet once the show started gaining momentum, the ironically self-aggrandizing title just seemed to fit. It also helped that the Barone family's dynamic was so comedic and heartfelt that viewers indeed did grow to love Raymond. So while Ray Romano might have cringed at first, the name stuck. And in retrospect, no other title would have worked quite the same way. When creating a family sitcom, authenticity can be a blessing and a curse. Ray Romano drew heavily from his own family when shaping the show's premise. In real life, Ray had 3 children, a daughter, Alexandra, called Allie, and twin boys named Gregory and Matthew. Initially, those same names appeared in the pilot episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. But after reflection, Ray felt it was too personal. If the character was closely based on his life, maybe the kid's name should differ at least a little so that his real family could maintain some privacy. As a result, while the daughter on the show remained Allie, the boys' names changed from Gregory and Matthew to Michael and Jeffrey. It was subtle but important. It gave Ray some creative distance and prevented the show from being a complete carbon copy of his everyday life. Speaking of kids, let's address the casting shuffle that took place after the pilot. Initially, real-life twins Justin and Drew Ferreira played Ray and Deborah's twin sons on screen. However, as the show progressed, producers began to feel that the Ferreira twins were visibly aging fast, and it disrupted the timeline the show wanted to maintain. Meanwhile, Madeline Sweeten portrayed Allie from the beginning. Madeline coincidentally had twin brothers, Sawyer and Sullivan Sweeten, who were also child actors. Producers decided to recast the Barone twins with Madeline's actual twin brothers. From that point on, Sawyer and Sullivan played Michael and Jeffrey. This seamless change might have gone unnoticed by many viewers, but it was a significant behind-the-scenes pivot that ensured continuity throughout the rest of the show. Interestingly, the children in Everybody Loves Raymond were never the main focal point. The series hinged more on the comedic tension among the adults, Ray, Deborah, Robert, and Ray's parents, Marie and Frank. Still, the kids' presence offered extra realism, reminding viewers that raising children is an enormous part of family life, even if day-to-day drama often revolves around the grown-ups. When we think of Brad Garrett's portrayal of Robert Barone, Ray's tall, sometimes moody, often endearingly awkward brother, we see a guy who is typically the show's comedic wildcard. Robert's comedic premise often revolved around his jealousy of Ray and his attempts to form his own identity. Yet, behind the scenes, Brad Garrett was battling a serious issue that most fans had no clue about. He was a high-functioning alcoholic during the show's early seasons. Garrett himself opened up in interviews years later, acknowledging how he could hide his drinking problems so well that hardly anyone on set realized he was struggling. He was able to show up to work, perform convincingly, and still keep up the comedic timing that earned him 3 Emmys over the show's run. Eventually, however, he realized how destructive this behavior was, not just to himself, but to everyone around him, and he decided to quit drinking during the first season. This was a massive turning point for Garrett. Not only did it likely save his health, but it helped preserve the harmonious environment on set. His story underscores a powerful point. Behind all the laughs, actors are real people who face real challenges. Garrett's willingness to confront his struggles head-on is admirable and echoes the strong, supportive vibe the rest of the cast displayed toward one another. Money can get complicated in Hollywood, especially when a show becomes a mega hit like Everybody Loves Raymond. By the early 2000s, the sitcom was riding high in ratings. Ray Romano, who was not only the star but also a co-creator, saw his salary balloon to an eye-popping figure around $1.8 million per episode on top of additional revenue from reruns and other residuals. That made him the highest-paid actor in television at one point. Meanwhile, Brad Garrett, who portrayed Robert, discovered his pay was significantly lower, reportedly around $160,000 per episode. Now, $160,000 for half an hour of TV may sound enormous to most of us, but in the TV landscape, especially comparing star salaries on the same show, that gap was massive. Frustrated by the disparity, Garrett led a short-lived walkout. Other cast members stood behind him, demanding more equitable contracts. After a few weeks of negotiations, the actors reached a better agreement and filming resumed. It's a testament to how important each member of the ensemble was. Nobody wanted to see the show crumble over money. And in the end, it served as a reminder that while Ray Romano was a huge draw, Everybody Loves Raymond was very much a team effort. It's not just about money when tensions arise on a sitcom set. Sometimes, political differences can cause sparks, though in this case, it was relatively respectful. Patricia Heaton, who played Deborah Barone, was outspoken about her conservative views. Meanwhile, Peter Boyle, who hilariously portrayed Frank Barone, was more liberal. Occasionally, these two would engage in playful spats or spirited debates, but by all accounts, they kept it respectful. They even exchanged friendly jokes about their clashing ideologies, and this mutual respect kept the atmosphere fun rather than confrontational. Even though they disagreed, it never spiraled out of control or affected their performances. What's truly sweet is that Patricia Heaton attended Peter Boyle's funeral in 2006, showing how much she appreciated him. Differences in political opinion aside, Boyle's death was a significant loss for the cast, as he had been a sort of paternal figure for many of the younger actors. Despite the comedic grumpiness of Frank Barone, Peter Boyle himself was known to be caring, supportive, and a bit of a mentor to those around him. Their strong off-screen bonds contributed to the show's realistic family feel. One of the most fascinating revelations is that Patricia Heaton was pregnant twice during the 9-season run, and the audience never knew. At the time, she already had 3 children, and these additional pregnancies came as a surprise. Because Deborah Barone wasn't scripted to be pregnant, the producers had to hide Heaton's growing baby bump on camera. They used all the typical Hollywood strategies, dressing her in loose, flowy clothes, strategically placing large purses, pillows, or furniture in front of her, and using carefully framed camera shots. In some scenes, you might notice Deborah standing behind the kitchen counter more often than usual. These tricks are so seamless that most viewers never caught on, unless they knew Heaton's personal life very well. It's a testament to how dedicated the production team was to maintaining continuity, and also how convincingly Heaton could deliver lines without drawing attention to anything off-screen. Today, many fans only discover these hidden pregnancies years later and go back to watch episodes with a new perspective. Patricia Heaton's bond with her family goes beyond what you see on screen. In fact, there's a clever Easter egg in Everybody Loves Raymond that pays tribute to Heaton's real-life father, Chuck Heaton. Chuck was a well-respected journalist for the Cleveland Plain Dealer for more than 50 years. In one scene, Deborah casually references one of Ray's co-workers, calling him Chuck Heaton. It's a tiny wink, a subtle nod that viewers might miss if they don't know the backstory. But for Patricia Heaton, it was undoubtedly meaningful. It's one of those moments that highlights how the show weaves real-life elements into its fictional tapestry, reinforcing that closeness between Patricia and the rest of the creative team. So much of Everybody Loves Raymond feels authentic because many episodes came straight from real life. Ray Romano would share anecdotes from his marriage and fatherhood, while show creator Phil Rosenthal did the same with his own family's quirks. Then, the writing team would shape these real stories into comedic scripts. One notable example, the entire infamous can opener fight, was lifted straight from Phil Rosenthal's marriage. Phil once joked that if they kept going beyond 9 seasons, the writing team might need to start manufacturing spousal arguments at home just to generate new comedic material. Ultimately, they decided the best approach was to bow out gracefully when they'd run out of fresh ideas. ensuring the show ended on a creative high rather than stretching itself thin. This real-life inspiration also had some unintended consequences. Ray's actual brother, a police officer named Richard, was teased by coworkers for certain comedic storylines that mirrored his life. Still, the show's authenticity resonated with millions of viewers who saw their own family's chaos, humor, and warmth reflected in the Baroness' lives. Frank Barone is often described as the epitome of grumpy old man. He's sarcastic, set in his ways, and ready to battle with Marie or scold his kids at a moment's notice. But off-screen, Peter Boyle was said to be quite different. Surprisingly, a case of real-life irritability one day might have sealed the deal on his casting. Boyle arrived at a crucial meeting with Ray Romano and Phil Rosenthal in a foul mood, thanks to a series of mishaps, including security issues, parking trouble, and wandering into the wrong building. By the time he sat down to talk, his annoyance was plain as day. Funnily enough, that edgy energy lined up perfectly with Frank Barone's persona. Phil Rosenthal once joked that Boyle's short fuse in that moment helped convince everyone that he was the perfect man to play the perpetually grouchy Frank. Boyle went on to earn 7 consecutive Emmy nominations for that role. Though he never quite matched Frank's curmudgeonly extremes in real life, he tapped into that vibe superbly on camera, turning Frank Barone into one of television's iconic father figures. Despite portraying a gruff character, Peter Boyle was incredibly private about his own struggles. In 2002, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a type of bone marrow cancer, yet he chose to share that news with only a small circle, including Doris Roberts, his on-screen wife, Marie Barone. She advised him not to inform the rest of the cast, arguing that he shouldn't be treated differently or pitied. She suggested that focusing on strong comedic material would keep him engaged and, in a sense, help him keep going. True to that spirit, Boyle continued working with remarkable dedication. He passed away in 2006, shortly after the show ended, leaving behind a powerful legacy and a deep sense of gratitude among fans who adored his work. With Robert's popularity soaring, there was talk of a spin-off following his adventures as a newly relocated gym teacher in Philadelphia. Can you imagine the comedic potential of Robert Barone awkwardly corralling a bunch of teenagers in a high school gym? Phil Rosenthal pitched the idea, and CBS appeared initially intrigued. Unfortunately, negotiations stalled, and the project was shelved. It's a classic what-if scenario in sitcom history. Had the network and creators found the right compromise, we might have enjoyed a whole new show centered on Robert's comedic misadventures. Instead, Everybody Loves Raymond remains a self-contained series, a near-perfect 9-season run that never strayed from its core cast. After 9 seasons, the day finally arrived to wrap up Everybody Loves Raymond. This was especially emotional for Patricia Heaton. Playing Deborah for nearly a decade had become second nature, and saying goodbye to those close-knit colleagues felt like losing extended family. According to cast members, during the final rehearsal for the series finale, Heaton was so overcome with emotion that she cried until she lost her voice. Without her ability to speak clearly, the producers had to delay filming the last episode in front of the live studio audience. It was a bittersweet moment that spoke volumes about how deeply the actors cared for each other and for the characters they had brought to life. When the finale eventually aired, it gave fans a sense of closure without resorting to over-the-top gimmicks. Instead, the writers chose a heartfelt yet comedic send-off that reflected the ordinary, relatable world of the Baroness. After the tearful goodbye, Patricia Heaton wasn't away from sitcom stardom for long. She soon returned in the middle, starring as Frankie Heck. This show ran from 2009 to 2018, offering another comedic look at family life, this time focusing on a more middle-class household in the American heartland. Heaton's gift for playing an endearing but stressed-out mom shone through once more, resonating with a whole new audience. In addition to her acting, Heaton has ventured into other fields. She wrote a book, became an advocate for causes she cares about, and took on leading roles in other TV projects such as Carol's Second Act. Through it all, fans never forget her as Deborah Barone, perpetually rolling her eyes at Ray while balancing life, children, and the constant intrusion of in-laws across the street. Fans of 1990s sitcoms might instantly recognize Maggie Wheeler's voice as Janice from Friends, famous for her shrill laugh and distinctive "oh my god." But Maggie Wheeler also had a small recurring role in Everybody Loves Raymond as Linda, a friend of the family. Interestingly, Wheeler originally auditioned for the role of Deborah. She was a strong contender too. She had comedic chops, a warm presence, and strong comedic timing. But the network decided she wasn't quite the right fit, ultimately giving the part to Patricia Heaton. However, CBS liked Wheeler enough to keep her in the Raymond family, granting her a smaller role. Fans loved her whenever she popped in. It's one of those what might have been scenarios. Had Wheeler landed Deborah, we would never have seen Heaton's iconic portrayal. Still, viewers got to enjoy Wheeler's comedic talents in both Friends and Everybody Loves Raymond, a double dose of 90s and early 2000s sitcom goodness. Doris Roberts, who played the inimitable Mary Barone, passed away in 2016 at the age of 90. With a show business career spanning over 6 decades, she was a treasure. Her portrayal of the controlling, overbearing, but ultimately loving mother gave Everybody Loves Raymond so much of its heart. Roberts took home 5 Emmy Awards throughout her career, one of which recognized her performance as Marie. She also found success in other roles, such as in Mrs. Miracle and Grandma's Boy, showcasing her wide range as an actress. Her death marked the end of an era for fans of the Barone family, many of whom remember Marie's meddling ways with fondness, laughter, and a fair share of exasperation. Before becoming a household name, Ray Romano spent over a decade in the stand-up circuit. He even worked as a furniture delivery man to supplement his income while honing his comedy routine. It wasn't until an appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman that everything changed. His performance wowed both audiences and producers, setting off a chain reaction. David Letterman's production company took note and offered Romano the chance to develop his own sitcom. Romano, in turn, drew from Seinfeld and his real-life experiences to shape the premise of Everybody Loves Raymond. The rest, as they say, is history. The show aired for 9 successful seasons, earning 15 primetime Emmys along the way. It even earned a spot on TV Guide's list of the greatest TV shows of all time. Romano's rise from struggling stand-up to top-paid sitcom star remains one of television's most uplifting success stories. A typical week on the Everybody Loves Raymond set was carefully choreographed. Mondays often began with script readings and rehearsals. Tuesday involved adjusting jokes and timing while the writers observed, making fresh edits as needed. By Wednesday, CBS executives showed up to watch a run-through, giving feedback on pacing or jokes that didn't quite land. Thursday was for camera blocking, figuring out how to capture each scene for maximum comedic impact. Finally, Friday was the big day, the taping in front of a live studio audience. This live element was crucial for comedic energy, as the laughter and applause gave the actors immediate feedback. Phil Rosenthal, the show's creator, insisted on sticking closely to the script, rarely allowing improvisation. This structured approach stood out in an era when some other sitcoms experimented with more freewheeling styles. All this discipline paid off. By the time an episode went to air, it had been shaped, refined, and tested until it was as funny and tight as possible. The well-crafted scripts and a cast that gelled perfectly are 2 of the reasons why Everybody Loves Raymond remains so beloved. You might recall exterior shots of Ray and Deborah's home, supposedly in Long Island, New York. Those scenes were actually filmed at a real house on Margaret Boulevard in Merrick, New York. Fun fact, the house across the street, representing Frank and Marie's place, was indeed right there too, reflecting that close-knit and sometimes claustrophobic dynamic that defined the Barone family. As the show's popularity soared, it was eventually sold into syndication in 2001, running on various networks, including TBS and TV Land. Over time, it became a staple of reruns across local channels in the US and international networks as well. Even years after the series wrapped, new audiences continued to discover Everybody Loves Raymond through these syndication deals, streaming services, and DVD collections. If you flip on your TV at odd hours, there's a decent chance you'll catch Ray, Deborah, and the rest of the family bickering over something like the best way to cook lasagna or handle a meddling mother. One reason Everybody Loves Raymond still resonates is its timeless style. While many 90s sitcoms used topical references, the Barone's humor mostly revolved around universal family issues. Kids or no kids, meddling parents, sibling rivalries, differences in parenting approaches. These matters transcend any particular decade. Composer Terry Trotter and Rick Marotta created the show's jazzy, piano-driven theme music, which added a sophisticated flavor. The credits used a clean typeface reminiscent of The New Yorker, and the comedic storyline rarely relied on pop culture jokes that might date it. In short, Everybody Loves Raymond feels just as fresh today as it did when it premiered in 1996. By focusing on real emotional experiences like the challenges of marriage, parenthood, and adult sibling relationships, the show carved a niche that was warm, funny, and relatable. Television scholars have pointed out that the 1990s included many family-centric comedies, but Everybody Loves Raymond managed to balance adult themes with comedic authenticity in a way that set it apart. So, why does Everybody Loves Raymond remain so evergreen, decades after it first aired? Part of it is the chemistry. Ray Romano, Patricia Heaton, Brad Garrett, Doris Roberts, and Peter Boyle worked together like a true ensemble. Everyone got a chance to shine. Another part is the writing, which skillfully drew from real-life experiences to create episodes filled with witty exchanges and situations that felt universally relatable. Family feuds, in-law meddling, disagreements over how to discipline kids, those things never really go out of style. But perhaps most importantly, Everybody Loves Raymond has heart. Even when Marie is scolding Deborah, or Frank is insulting Robert, you sense a core of genuine love beneath the sarcasm. It's a family that drives one another crazy, but can't stand being apart. It's laughter that emerges from tension and annoyance, then circles back to acceptance. This comedic approach to real family life has kept viewers watching and rewatching for years. We hope these behind-the-scenes stories have given you a fresh perspective on a show that continues to capture hearts worldwide. And if you're feeling nostalgic, maybe now is the perfect time to revisit your favorite Barone family moments. Whether it's Marie's overprotective mothering, Robert's deadpan sense of humor, or Deborah's exasperated eye rolls at Ray's antics. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the secrets and stories of Everybody Loves Raymond, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more videos just like this one. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Did any of these revelations surprise you? Is there a behind-the-scenes fact you'd like to share? Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.